Welcome back to the Forward Thinking Podcast. It's Christy and Charlie here.
Good morning.
And today we're going through an interesting topic. We're going through 4 things that you should be telling your marketing team if you're in marketing ops. And we got this idea because, and by the time this comes out, we would have already done the Clubhouse. But tomorrow we're doing a special Clubhouse during the Marketing Noon Hour with Sweetfish Media around 4 things that your marketing ops team or person is not telling you that you should know. And so we want to flip this on its head. We know a lot of you work in marketing ops or you support marketing ops, manage them. And so we wanted to talk through what are the 4 things that you should be telling your marketing team so that you can have them have more empathy for you or understand how you work, really make that set those expectations, things they should know. So Charlie's going to go through those today. So let's just get to it. What's the first thing, Charlie, that marketing ops people should be telling their marketing team?
Well, the short answer is just things take longer, always take longer than we think.
Yeah.
You know, I'm guilty of this. We're all guilty of this. We want to make people happy. They say, oh, we've got this new tool. Can you get this set up? Or we need to fix this, other thing. And they throw it on your plate. And straight away you just say, oh yeah, I can have that done this week, or I could have it done in a couple of weeks, without really thinking, okay, this is going to be either a beast to implement, or I've got a ton of technical debt that I'm going to have to work through to be able to get this implemented properly. Yeah. Or I'm just absolutely slammed. So now I'm going to have to work, my evenings just to get this done. And we've talked about this a lot on the podcast before around marketing operations people, like being people pleasers. We like to make people happy. Mm-hmm. We like to, kind of have a bit of a hero complex. I feel like sometimes, like give me all the work, like I'll get it done. And you don't have to be like that. Right. I think you end up doing yourself a bit of a disservice because the expectations just keep on getting greater and greater and greater, and then your ability to meet those expectations keeps on getting eroded and eroded and eroded. Mm-hmm. So the first one, we need to be honest about how long things take, even if that's not what people want to hear.
Yeah. I always think of the example of pre-COVID, when a lot of people didn't let you book reservations, you'd go to like a brunch place and you'd ask for a booking and they're like, you ask how long the wait will be and they'll say like 20 minutes and then it ends up being an hour. And how pissed are you by that time? But if they actually say an hour and you just wait it and you're like, oh, is this worth an hour? Okay. But at least the expectations were on point. Or even if it took less than that, you're like, oh, okay. That mm-hmm. wasn't that bad,
That's a good analogy.
It's always better to over project or make them realize that, it'll take longer instead of just committing to a short time frame that you can never get to.
Yeah. And, the best teams in MOPS have SLAs with all of their internal customers, so to speak. So, that work, it's a bit easier to have SLAs when it comes to campaign execution because, we've got to get a nurture set up or a webinar set up or an email out the door. That's going to take, this many days or this many weeks. I need this by this date and that by that date. For other kind of more strategic projects, it's a bit more difficult to have SLAs, but for managing, issues and bugs and stuff like that, you can have SLAs on how quickly you'll respond. It's kind of like a support team, for a tech company, they're going to have SLAs for how quickly they're going to get back to their customers. So SLAs are a great way to help manage expectations. And then what you have to do a lot of the time is not always beat your SLA.
Yeah.
Because if you're the campaign operations person managing campaign X and you're constantly getting that email out, same day in 1 or 24 hours, 48 hours, when really your SLA is a week, then people just start to expect that. Mm-hmm. And then the one time it takes you a week to do it, now they're pissed. Mm-hmm. So, we need to be honest about how long things take. And then sometimes even if it's going to be quicker, kind of just don't rush it. Like you've got enough work to do to, keep that expectation in check.
Yeah. All right. What's the second one?
This one's a hard one to talk about, I think. And it's all about, again, it's about honesty. I think we have to be honest with our team about how much technical debt.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be cruel, but how much of a mess a lot of these systems are. Mm-hmm. if you're not in it day to day, you would be forgiven to think, yes, there's some issues, yes, there's some fire drills, might have some data issues, but they might not really be aware of all of the issues that you're just battling under the surface all day, every day, creating a lot of stress, adding to your workload, making things way more difficult, adding time onto things. But a lot of we're reluctant to do it because it kind of like it's admitting that we might have messed up.
Mm-hmm.
The difference though, and the thing that I would go back with it, it's never just one person's fault.
No.
These days, most companies, you've started working there, you've inherited a lot of technical debt, and then you've had unrealistic expectations put on you to like implement this tool, build this process, add on this complexity, and bend the tools to the will of the rest of the marketing team.
Yeah.
That you've had to do. So, don't feel guilty or bad, or that it's going to be any way, or it shouldn't be, blamed on you as a marketing operations person if you admit, these systems are getting a bit out of control. We have to audit them, deal with these issues, and it can help us, move quicker in the future. Yeah. And I find a lot of team, we don't want to admit that to the wider team because it makes operations look bad. But I think it's time for everyone to have a bit of a reality check.
Right. Yeah, totally. And if your team doesn't know what technical debt is, I think it's even good just setting the primer of just within your team, kind of describing what that is, what is the impact, and giving real life examples. Hey, remember when we had our webinar and the records didn't sync over? Well, we have all this stuff in Salesforce that's preventing that happening, and we need to address that. Mm-hmm. So just giving them real life examples of how that's really impacting their day-to-day and campaigns, I think sets the picture.
Yeah, I've been working with a client recently, and we were just trying to help with lean data routing on the contact.
Yeah.
And that then led into going, okay, well, we wanted a route based on, accounts and account owners. Mm-hmm. And then we start finding, there's, a lot of duplicate accounts. Okay, what's causing all of these duplicate accounts? And then we start digging and we find, they've got the free trial. That data is synced through a custom integration that the engineering team built, and it's adding leads into the system and automatically converting them, creating a new account every single time. Now, there's a lot more goes into that because they've got kind of Zora connected and Service Cloud and everything. But most of the company didn't really know like how bad that problem was. Some people like feeling little symptoms here and there, like the customer success team were like, which account am I dealing with? And sales team are kind of like getting confused, but no one really knew how, out of control that whole system was, and how bad it is, how it's just continually getting worse. We started to kind of highlight it. We went around all the stakeholders from pretty much every business unit in the company, and then started to explain like how bad this was and why it's bad and why it needs to be addressed. And now we've got a cross-functional team of people all willing to fix the problem, right? Whereas before, it was more just like kind of people just dealing with the symptoms here and there, mm-hmm. and everyone just kind of just like living with that technical debt and not being able to work properly. So sometimes it's good to just like highlight things, do a tour around the company and explain it, and then maybe you'll get the support you need to fix it.
Totally. Yeah. So third one, 3 out of 4.
This one, I think I heard people talk about this recently. I think this is starting to get around. There's no such thing as an easy tool or tech. I mean, every vendor and every salesperson will say like, this integrates perfectly. This is easy to set up. It's very intuitive, and some of that might be true. But every time you add a new tool to the stack, it isn't just like +1 extra work. It's an exponential growth curve of work, because you have to think about the integration, the data, how that data interacts with the data in your other systems, the order of operations, if it's updating data at a certain time or needing data to be updated, mm-hmm. for that tool to do its job. So that then kind of explodes because it starts adding on. You then need to think about that tool within all of the existing tools in the stack.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't just like plug this in and it just kind of throws the data in at any point, within whatever data flow that you have set up. It all needs to be mapped out and thought about properly within kind of an order of operations approach to process the data in the right way.
Yeah.
So when you add that tool again, or when people are talking about adding tool, oh, marketing ops person, this is an easy tool we're looking at. Like the salesperson told me it's like 10 minutes to implement. You need to be honest and say, this is going to add, potentially hours to my week every week just to deal with this one tool, right?
Yeah. Shiny object syndrome too does not play well with this. And I think it's good to make this really clear for the non-technical people, because especially leadership, because a lot of the leaders on those teams are saying, oh, we should just get this solution, but they don't realize like what goes into that. And so if they're doing their own planning as well, and like think that this tool can be up off the ground in like weeks, and they're banking their whole that to support their strategy, that, that's a nightmare. And this happens all the time. This happens. I am dealing with this right now, even on like a non-client related project. Just anytime you add on tech, like I think the whole team needs a little bit of education on like what goes into that, how long it takes, and set expectations of what's the reality of using that tool to support your strategy. Like how long would they have to wait to do that?
Yeah, and it goes back to your 3 Bs, right? Do you have the bodies? Do you have the budget? And do you have the business case? The first one is the most key one in what we're talking about here, because 9 times out of 10, you don't have the bodies, right? So you're just adding another tool, another load of work on the one marketing operations person you have on the team's plate. They're already managing, 20, 25 tools themselves. So that, again, be clear, be honest, the workload, and maybe if they're trying to push an aggressive expansion within your technology stack, then maybe that gives you a reason to increase your bodies, like get another get another head count.
Yeah. Okay, fourth and final one. You're gonna say the A word.
What's the A word?
Attribution.
I know. Just wanted to keep people guessing there for a second. So everyone, how do I phrase this? Because I don't want to
hurt people's feelings.
No, not that. I mean, it's not about hurting people's feelings. It's about kind of explaining it the right way so people don't get put off by it. So I think people outside of marketing ops or data or analyst roles or anything like that, I think they don't yet understand attribution.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people don't. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's why I need to be more nuanced. Loads of people do understand it. So if you're the person that understands it, great. But a lot
also
of people don't.
To clarify your point, I think everyone has different definitions of it too.
Well, I think
I had someone who's like, oh, a lead source on a lead is attribution.
Well, it is. It's just 100% attribution.
Exactly.
Right?
But like, I think I think there's misconceptions also sometimes of the different types of attribution, like which one you should be using, which one the company is using.
Yeah.
Just in general, like.
And I think that whatever your attribution model, if it is like that, kind of like a first touch. Attribution model where you're going to give 100% of the credit to whatever maybe like created that lead or whatever, and then that turned into opportunity. This isn't about what model. I think it's about how to use the data.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of stuff on LinkedIn about attribution's dead, it's stupid, we shouldn't do it anymore, it's kind of leading marketers astray. And I think where this comes from is that data has been positioned as kind of this holy grail. You don't need to think anymore, right? Like just buy this attribution tool or build this attribution model, and you as a marketer will never have to make a decision again, because the decision's been made for you by the data, right? It's like, oh, this channel is always performing better than this channel, then I need to, completely just change my budget to put more budget in that channel, and I don't even need to think about it.
Or what's worse is they're looking at attribution to show their credit.
Right, exactly. And that goes to Alison's point on our team, kind of using attribution to prove and not just improve, right? So the former is where you're just trying to just say, okay, this is what kind of created this op. Like this is that touch point, that event, got it, you know? But as we all know, the buying journey is far more complex like that. There are going to be touch points that are invisible that you're not able to see, like word of mouth, someone listening to your podcast, someone stumbling across your LinkedIn post. And then there's going to be touch points that you do see because you've got UTM parameters and you're tracking them and all of that kind of stuff. And of course, the attribution model is going to weight things towards what you can track, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, right? Because you have to be an intelligent marketer and realize, yes, we're still going to do that other stuff.
Right.
We might not going to be able to track it. We might have to think through how we're going to be able to, if we do want to take a data-driven approach, how can we capture information about these invisible touch points? But at the same time, you can still help improve your marketing by looking at the stuff you can track and using that data and judging those channels and those campaigns against each other, refining your budget allocation and thinking through what is working and what you need to, double down on, what maybe you need to pull back on, and just keep on improving what you're doing. And I think the kind of the quote or the stat or whatever it is, if you improve 1% every day for a year, you're 37 times better. It might be wrong, Google it. But it's that continuous growth mindset. And if you can use data to help inform your decision making and to be that little bit better, that will compound over time and you will be performing better. So that's where I think the attribution conversation gets kind of sidetracked, because people expect it to just be definitive. It's like, I should be 100% better with my decision makers. No, you're going to get marginal benefit day to day, but that marginal benefit compounds, and that's how you will continually improve your marketing effort. And I'm saying marginal benefit at a minimum, right? You could find some real insight in there that can give you a lot more benefit, but at a minimum, you can get compounding marginal benefit through better decision making each and every day.
Yeah, it just gives you insight into like how to adjust your dials, and really it's really great for explicit attribution. There's even implicit attribution, which a lot of that could be the things that we can't really measure, but are really good. And when I think of this, I think of also in your personal life, like from a health perspective, if you're tracking your workouts, that day, you could be controlling you're also looking at your food intake, like caffeine, sleep. Those are all dials that you can actually like measure. But then there's other things like the weather that day or your hormones, like all these things like that, like, maybe some stress that happen that are harder to actually like see on paper. Like this is what is happening, but they still have an impact on your results. And so
but just because of that, you shouldn't just not track the other stuff, right?
Exactly. You at least track the things that you can control and then you can track. But also, as you're ingesting that data, think about the other things that might also have an impact. And that's the big picture. It doesn't mean you don't think about those things. It doesn't mean that they don't matter. They do. But you just bring that into the whole picture.
Yeah. Don't throw it away because it's not going to just be the silver bullet, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's the 4.
All right. Yep. Well, hopefully you guys got some inspiration on some, things to chat about with your marketing team. And if you do meet with those teams, maybe start to have some like education talks or lunch hours or something like that, where you can start educating the team on these different areas. And that could really help your marketing ops team just be more aligned and working more efficiently to support that whole team.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, I from some of the best marketing people I work with, they have that. They feel like they're a consultant kind of in their own company, right?
Yeah.
Trying to consult the rest of the marketers how to use data, how to be better, how to think about things. They're not just, a reactive button pusher. So be proactive, try and get this type of information out around the team, and it can go some way to helping you be able to get a bit of a balanced job and not feel so stressed out, I hope.
Totally. And just building your brand too. So so hopefully that was useful for everyone. We'll see you on the next episode of Forward Thinking. And if you like this episode, please share it with your colleagues or friends or on social. We love for you to share the love for Forward Thinking. So
And if you didn't like it, tell us why.
have a good one.